Hey, it's George Coyle from Triangulated back with another episode of Listen to the Markets. Didn't have time to do a presentation this week, so I'm going to do a little screen share. Okay, so one of the things I see is actually a little bit of confusion, just not a clear message from the markets, in my opinion, this week. And prime example is the dispersion between gold and silver. So far over the last week, gold is up about 3%, silver's down about 4%. In theory, they should be moving together. In practice, they are not, which is just one of several things I'm seeing. So you can see here the chart patterns are largely the same, but gold is really started to go up where silver hasn't really gotten there. In stock indexes, the Russell 2000 IWM has been stronger of the three, or it was going into today. But there's just not a lot of activity happening in the past month or three, depending on which index you look at. You can see the S&P here is in a pretty tight range, and the NASDAQ is a wider range, but really isn't moving. I looked at stock sectors. Stan Druckenmiller says that they're the best economist he knows. So in theory, if you look at those, you can get a message, but nothing really stood out from my looking at the sectors, to be honest, this week. Single stocks, I am noticing you're getting some big dramatic moves. So for example, Amazon's gone from just shy of 250 down to 200 in a handful of days. Microsoft similarly has gone from about 500 to 400 in not a lot of time. But there's also positive stuff happening. Apple is hanging in and looks to be up decent today, and Nvidia is still hanging in. So I mostly attribute this to earnings season, and just stocks based on their earnings or other companies, related companies' earnings, are moving around a bit. One of the other things I see is Bitcoin. Boy, it's an ugly situation there. You got to wonder, from the things I've read, MicroStrategy or Strategy, Michael Saylor, they're kind of at their point where they're actually down money, and it's starting to be questionable as to what they're going to have to do with their Bitcoin holdings. The market seems to have sniffed it out. I guess it's not good to be a very vocal whale in any given market, but we'll see. For now, Bitcoin's not looking too great. The only other thing I notice is that the yen is up pretty decent today, and long-term bonds in the United States are up. So adding it all up, there's not a lot of stuff going on in the stock market. There's some dispersion between gold and silver. You got single stocks moving, but it's mostly earnings related. Crypto's Bitcoin, is moving to the tune of its own drum. And then we've got a little bit of money apparently going into the yen and bonds, but I'd like to see that move continue. So I don't really see a definitive conclusion here this week. Just see maybe if there will be next week. The only thing I guess I would say with all of that is when in doubt, zoom out is what I like to do. And when you zoom out and you look at the S&P 500, for example, we're still very, very much in a long-term uptrend. And the greatest traders say the best move is to stick with the long-term trend. So I plan to do just that and use my trader principles in case things get hairy. So, all right, that's it for this week. I'll see you next week. Thanks.